Hey guys, what's up? Hope you're all doing well today. I'm Jessie, and today's video topic is one a few of you had asked for, but also a topic that I think is good to cover, considering I personally switched my EDC over from a 9mm, the Glock 43X, to the Bodyguard 2 380. So, question on a lot of your guys' minds, is 380 actually a reasonable round to carry in a self-defense scenario? And before you think, hey, spoilers, if Jessie carries it, it must be okay, I will have you guys know I have a very low sense of self-preservation. Do with that information what you will, but make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and let's get started. As a round, 9mm is obviously a little bit longer, meaning you have more space in the case to put propellant, more ass behind it. Of course, it's going to be a beefier round. You're gonna be able to get more stopping power. I hate that term. You're gonna be able to get more oomph out of it just by nature of design. And while 380 and 9 are extremely close in dimensions, that little bit does actually help provide a bit more muzzle energy and a bit more velocity, which in turn, of course, more penetration and potentially more reliable expansion. So I think it's silly to have this conversation of, is 380 comparable to 9? Is 380 better than 9? The answer is no, obviously. That's like comparing 22 to 5.56. You have a bigger round, you get more power. Basics. The conversation instead should be, is 380 capable of being sufficient for self-defense? Is it able to do just enough? Barely get by? Or are we struggling? Or is it going to be able to meet those standards that you expect and can feel confident carrying that in a time of need? I think the biggest concern when talking about 380 in regards to self-defense is obviously going to be stopping power capabilities, which are going to be a result of penetration and expansion. Like every other caliber on the market, there is a whirlwind of choices to choose from. Some manufacturers are going to be better than others, more consistent than others, and some are going to prioritize different performance capabilities. One round might have more reliable expansion, but not as deep penetration, vice versa. One round might be kind of mediocre, all of the above. You have to decide as a consumer what you want to prioritize in regards to those metrics. And this is going to be true for any round. Granted, something like 9mm is going to be able to consistently provide better performance specifications in those regards, but that doesn't mean 380 isn't capable. When deciding what firearm you want to carry as your EDC, it is equally as important to give thought to what ammo you're going to pair with it. The Lucky Gunner did an amazing study on this with a lot of different calibers, but obviously relevantly 380. Make sure you guys go check that out. But basically they pulled apart some more common brands on the market for 380 choices and compared penetration and expansion amongst those results, 5 shots for each group. And you can see here by these results that while 380 is clearly capable of penetration well into the 20-25 inch mark, it does come at the cost of expansion performance. But there's a lot of things on the market, so let's kind of dissect some of these results a little bit and see what might be more viable. The rounds that kind of seem to bridge a good middle ground of still meeting FBI standards for penetration within that gel type, as well as decent expansion, seems to be the Hornady 90 grain XTP, the SIG 90 grain V-Crown, the Spear 90 Gold Dot, Win 85 Silver Tip Super X's, the Win 95 grain PDX-1. I don't know how loud those shots are in the background. We're gonna find that out together. On the other hand, if you do prioritize expansion, we can see here that the Win 95 does only go in about 9 inches, but does have consistent expansion, beautiful pedals every time. And of course, if you are in the thought group that penetration is the only thing that matters, Federal pretty consistently goes well past what FBI standards would be. A lot of them are hitting past the 20s, but again, you're not going to get that pedaling. One thing that I think it's important to point out with these data sets is that while it is capable of penetrating past the 18 inches, the FBI standards for gel tests dictate that it should be within that 12 to 18 inch mark, meaning these rounds are, on paper, over-penetrating, which not necessarily an issue, and of course, a conversation that's dependent upon what you are shooting into on whether or not that would be a concern. But I also do think it's worth noting that the 9mm rounds that Lucky Gunner had tested does have very similar results. So when you look at the data that was collected for 9mm, you can see, just like 380, there are rounds that were under-penetrating for what would be considered ideal, over-penetrating, and then probably most important here, just as questionably capable at reliable expansion. I do think that there is a larger variety of 9mm rounds on the market, meaning that you have a higher chance of making a successful choice and a bigger variety of options to fine-tune what you think is an appropriate carry option for yourself. But given the topic of the video, it is clearly evident that 380 and 9 are capable of providing pretty similar results. Kind of a TLDR of the results, the generalization here is we can see on average, 380 is going to be hitting about 900 feet per second, whereas 9mm is going to be closer towards that 1050, 1100 feet per second. Average penetration for 380 is going to be around 13.5, with 9mm going in towards 19.5. And an interesting point here is in regards to average expansion diameter. 380 is going to, again, on average, generalizing here, consistently hit around 0.43 inches, whereas 9 is going to be hitting about 0.48 and change, which realistically isn't all that too different. The bullet within target is going to be pretty damn close most of the time. So that expansion size is going to be actually pretty close most of the time, even though 380 is not going to give that typical pedaling that you would like to see. And even more interesting to note is that 380 does have weight retention of about 99% on average, whereas 9mm is going to have a weight retention closer towards 96%. So, just based off of the numbers here and the pictures we can see, 380 is holding its own. And obviously there is some variability. When you talk about self-defense, it is of course sensible to want to have the best of the best. Why leave anything to chance? If you can pick something that is even just a hair more consistent, a hair more penetration, why would you not? It's your life on the line. Which begs the question, why would you carry 380 then? 9mm is clearly capable of a little bit better performance, more options on the market for firearms. Seems like a better choice. We've established that there's options on the market that would allow 380 to perform more than adequately with what you might want in a self-defense scenario. Granted, we can have this conversation, why not carry 45? Why not carry 10? And people will argue up and down over their beliefs. And it is something that does become quite personal. But I can at least speak for myself. I switched over to 380 because of concealability. I think this is something that's common with a lot of women who are trying to get into guns, or tinier people in general, and especially common for people who are just starting off in the firearms world, maybe just starting to carry. You care a lot more about printing, concealability, being able to comfortably hide it on you. A lot of guys carry for a few years, stop carrying if there's a little bit of a print. The people who recognize it aren't the people who are going to care generally. But as someone who is petite and I don't want to sacrifice clothing option, 380 pistols do provide a lot more variability for me. After picking up the Bodyguard, I did a whole video on this by the way, but after picking up the Bodyguard and the Enigma holster to go along with it, I don't have to sacrifice outfits, I don't have to sacrifice comfort, and it's something that I'm going to be more likely to put on my person consistently. Whereas with the 43X, there were times that I had left it at home because it wasn't comfortable. I was a little more self-conscious about printing with it. And a firearm that you're leaving at home is really not a good EDC. Something that needs to be considered in self-defense scenarios is what that scenario looks like. I'm not sitting here shooting super long range distances. I'm not shooting at people in body armor. It's self-defense. We all know that that typically happens within the 3 to 7 yard range. Obviously, more space, the better. Higher chance of success for yourself. You don't want people to close in. But within that workable range, 380 provides more than enough. The average person, especially, spring, summertime, is wearing thin clothes. And hell, you look at some people sideways, 12 inches is a lot. A lot of penetration, lot to go through. You really don't need anything past that with what normal clothes are going to be wearing. Hey guys, yeah, brief interruption from editing me in the future. I know some of you viewers and you're gonna be sick about what I just said. We know what I meant. If you look at someone sideways and you consider how much depth you have to get through to get to their organs versus how much penetration one of these calibers is gonna provide, shouldn't be of concern. To the rest of you who listened to that previous sentence and had terrible thoughts, shame on you. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. So 380 absolutely can accomplish those feats. And then you have the conversation about winter time, thicker clothes start to come through, a bit more of a barrier to push past with 380, and 9 would obviously be better at that, but I would also bring up the point then, if it's winter and everyone else is wearing thicker clothes, then so am I, and 9 might become an easier thing to carry. But if a 380 pistol is something that you're still more comfortable with, it'll get the job done. Shot placement is so important in these scenarios, and we've seen videos of cops shooting people with 9, shooting people with 45, cracked out meth heads that are absolutely going crazy, and even those calibers still aren't enough. So in all scenarios, you have to be prepared to stay calm, take effective shots, and keep shooting until you are safe. It doesn't matter what you choose to carry, it matters that you do, in fact, continue to train and carry. A lot of the pistols for 380 do come in more compact sizes, of course, meaning easier for smaller hands to hold, since the round has a little bit of less oomph to it, potentially less recoil, making it an easier shot. And at the end of the day, if it's something that you are willing to train with, then who cares if it's what that person wants to carry. The muzzle energy between 9mm and 380 is going to be about a difference of 360 foot-pounds versus about 200 foot-pounds, which is a bit of a difference. But you can see on this target here that the bullet hole is about the same size, and like I had mentioned, 380 does retain more of the weight that it puts into target on average. So I think the TLDR of this video here is, while 9 on paper does provide a bit more, and while more of the options on market are going to be consistently what someone might be looking for within a self-defense round, I think it's very clear that 380 does have options available that someone can feel confident having on their person. It's really all I had for you guys with this one. At the end of the day, don't let someone change your mind on what you want to carry, as long as you're happy carrying and practicing with it, because that's what matters. Make sure you guys train, stay safe, and I hope to see you all on the next video. Bye.
Going to a winery. No, that's tomorrow. We did the spa day. Yeah, that's what my mom made me go out and do right after I landed at 2 o'clock in the morning.